Welcome back to the next episode of Ascot Blake's SME Life and Business Podcast. Today, I'm delighted to have on Josh from Douglas Joshua, and very excited to run through A, his new business, and B, all his experiences from the past few years. Josh, thank you for coming on, first of all.
Thanks so much for having me.
No, it's welcome. As you know, I've watched from afar for the past 10 years and more how much you guys have achieved, and the business has evolved over the last decade. And like I remember going to view properties with you, probably low to mid-range, then to see you over social media, handling lots of high-end properties, really changed the whole brand. Just interested how you achieved that and what you've learned.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's no sort of like quick win to getting to that stage. When I look back of when I started, I entered the industry in 2006, like straight out of school. I wasn't particularly academic and I knew that university probably wasn't going to be the route for me.
Right.
And having that conversation with my mum and dad, like, what should I do? But I had like a real interest in people, and liked architecture and property, and actually initially sort of aspired to get into sort of like development and that type of role, but thought that a estate agency would be like a really good grounding. So we took about the very practical route of buying suit, printing CVs, and then literally going and hand delivering CVs from literally offices in Saffron Walden all the way to Loughton.
Wow.
And was really fortunate to be approached by or get a call back from the leading independent in the town at the time, who said, look, we don't actually have a role, but if you wanted to come and get some work experience, come and join us for a couple of weeks. So which I did, and absolutely loved it. And then as the 2 weeks sort of came to an end, they said, oh look, we've really enjoyed having you, like we could create a junior role if you'd be interested. And then never really look back. So I was with that business for 8, nearly 9 years. As I say, started as a junior, and we were just talking to a client for this that at that time Rightmove was in its infancy. So you were doing I was like stuffing envelopes with property details and posting it out to people and that type of thing.
Yeah, that's the more.
So really quite a basic role, but then sort of like progressed into a negotiator, and that involved client relationships and that type of thing. And funny story, but like when I started, I was 17, just around to turn 18, and then 19, the company ran an in-house competition for 12 months, which was out of all of their staff members at the time, which was about 80 to 100. Well, and they said, we'll run the duration of 12 months, and whoever finishes in the top 6, we're going to take you to Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Which I was like, buzzing for.
Yeah. Cool.
And I actually ended up winning that competition. And it was like based around, your normal measures like your sales and that type of thing, but customer relationships. But the funny part of it was when I was 19. So they were like, look, we shouldn't really take you to Vegas because you need to be 21 to enjoy it. So I got a trip to the Maldives, which was brilliant. But winning that, really just emphasized to me that I could be really good. Yeah. And actually winning it was more important to me than actually getting the trick. The business, probably about 6 years into my time there, was then bought out by a corporate. And the industry is as such that if you're good at your role, the natural progression would be then into like a management position. So I moved into managing their flagship office, and really enjoyed that because it was like focused still on the results side of things, but then I got to oversee the development of people and the culture and that type of stuff. And at the time we had this amazing team. We delivered some outstanding results, and and at the time it was, some of the results were like unknown, like they're setting fresh benchmarks basically. And then I got to a position where I was then approached by the owner of an independent company. It was the opportunity to to basically turn on a sales division in what was a really well thought of the lettings business. And yeah, they did have a bit of a sales presence, but not to obviously the extent of what it is now. But it was a really good grounding for me because the process was like joining when they were doing a rebrand. So I got to meet with a marketing company. You know, you were very direct with how we were going to position ourselves in the market.
Yeah.
And we knew that there was perhaps some competitors in the marketplace that had become probably slightly complacent in their marketplace. So we knew that that was an opportunity to just take from market share. Yeah. With success in quite a short spell of time, we were able to then really build up in our team and then basically the business to where it is now.
I mean, I love the initial part of that conversation where you said you've like literally handed CVs in everywhere. I mean, you hear this on like podcasts and stuff. I think it's brilliant. Like, I'd love it if someone did that to me now.
Yeah.
I come and do it. I've never, in 10 years, no one's handed it.
I just don't think it happens anymore.
It's interesting because I interview apprentices, like we take on a couple every year. And they always say, I've been to so many interviews, there's so much competition. Just think that just completely differentiates yourself. Did you get many calls back or was it just that one?
It was a time where everyone used to write to people. So I did get some letters back. I got one particular letter from a guy in Harlow and he was like really informative of like, you know, sorry, we couldn't take you on, but these are the people that you should approach. Type of thing. So which was like really nice. And and like some of the letters are from people that I work with now. That's cool. So yeah, it's really cool to look at. Yeah, that's really cool.
You know, I guess going back to the question in terms of like how you move from that smaller sort of end of the market to the larger end of the market, do you think that was because of, you know, the move of social media, you were able to place yourself as that sort of expert, or do you think just naturally by the relationships you were building?
I think it's sort of twofold, really. I think the like this is not rocket science, right? This is quite an easy industry to operate in, but you have to be consistent in delivering good results, and like any business. But what you find within Stalford, so Stalford's are very much a transactional market. Yeah. So because I've now been in it for nearly 20 years, I would have acted for somebody who bought their first home. Yeah. And then, you know, at the time would have given them such a good experience that when they came to sell that house, they would have come to me. Yeah. So naturally I've just seen that sort of progression. And then I think because of how we set ourselves apart with, you know, really good marketing. And to be honest, social media has become more prevalent in the last few years. And, you know, certainly I've leaned into it more in the last few years. But as soon as you get associated with those properties and your marketing is really good, you start to capture that sort of aspirational market. Yeah. And then as soon as you get a bit of traction, that allows you to just keep building and building. Yeah. So, you know, if like to put that into context, like one of my very first sales was Braziers Key, just down the road. Yeah, the first, a 1-bed flat, and it was about 170. Okay. And you know, we've just transacted the biggest house sale in Stalford at over 4 million. So like, it takes a long time to get to that stage. And I think that the difficulty with today is like you don't get people coming in and handing a CV and all that type of stuff. And there's almost this attitude of like instant gratification and this Amazon culture that we're in. Yeah. And actually it's slightly detrimental to the industry, I think, because you're not getting the caliber of people entering in the market and then giving it enough time to progress.
Interesting. So as that journey progressed, you must have been through a lot of ups, a lot of downs. Yeah. You know, markets getting good, markets getting bad. Yeah. Like I've always found, like in bad markets, in recruitment, for example, all the sort of people that have got a lot of experience, they're okay. But new people coming into the market struggle a little bit in them sort of lower markets. But you've had a lot of markets during that time. You've probably had the sort of 08, 09, and then you've probably had COVID and lots of different things. What were the biggest challenges along the way? Like you even mentioned, you know, progressing from a negotiator into a manager, you know, that involves managing people, which is, in my opinion, probably the biggest challenge in any business. What were the biggest challenges or learning moments or sort of light bulb moments, if you like?
Yeah, I mean, I have seen quite a lot of changes in the market. You know, I was saw the downturn in 2008, which was pretty brutal. But I was part of, young in a team that had lots of experience, so it was great to sort of be in that, and and have being able to navigate through that, which gave me a really good basis for everything else that we've then seen.
Just seeing them operate in that market.
Yeah, and I was really fortunate that the first business that I was in, so they were market leader. They had probably 60% of the market share.
Yeah.
They were really known for getting the job done. They were really efficient. But the people who were in that office, so at the time there were only, I think, 3 offices, so it was quite small. But in my office, I had the 2 owners, I had the sales director. So like there was a really great experience there. And I worked as sort of like number 2 to the sales director, branch manager type role. So I was constantly getting that, input and expertise.
Yeah.
And I think, if you want to be good at something, you in this industry, you need to be true to who you are.
Yeah.
And really lean into that. But you then need to be working on the stuff in the background that you're not so great at.
Yeah.
And, and ultimately then that gives you a really good foundation to go on and succeed. I tend to agree, staff is quite a tough one. I think we've been really fortunate because of like the positions that we've been in, and actually the brand is as such, or the old brand was as such, that people wanted to work for us. So we attracted some really good talent. Okay. But, you have personalities and things, and, you do have slight clash. And if you want to go in certain directions, not everyone agrees with that, and that in itself is a learning experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always found just like being really open and honest when then things happen.
Yeah.
There's never really a need to fall out with stuff like that. But then I've had staff sort of be here and go.
Yeah.
We've got a really consistent team now, but it's just being honest. If you don't fit the business model, or you don't believe in the business model, then maybe you should put what I'm saying. And
well, we always used to say to people like, this is we're very open book. I very much, I will, if I see something, I say it, and this is how I think it should be done, but I'm happy to, and I'm open to suggestions. And if someone's not happy with something, voice it, because we're not going to be able to work as a team if we're not honest with each other.
No, it's true. So yeah, it's quite important. It's interesting because I think in your market as well, like, I mean, I've obviously viewed loads of houses over the years and stuff like that with various agents.
Yeah.
And one thing I've always said is like, an agent's never going to make me buy a house.
No.
But they can certainly make me not want to buy a house, right? Like, so,
yeah.
So it's kind of learning that way of like building good relationships. I think you need to be quite authentic in that, and I think you've always been really authentically you, and that's really comes across on social media.
Yeah,
like what challenges have you found helping other people do that? Because I find people think they need to be a particular way, or a certain way, to have success. And I personally don't believe that's the case.
Yeah, I think the problem is there's so many like outside factors that, influence people now as to how they feel and see, how they should be perceived. Unfortunately, there's so many connotations that are associated to our industry that actually you just have to be your authentic self.
Yeah.
I think what's been great for me, and to be honest, it's a bit of a cheat code, really. I've grown up in Stalford. I schooled here. Yeah, grew up here. My wife did too.
Yeah.
And now we're bringing up our own kids here, so we're really ingrained.
Yeah.
But then with, say, personal brand, you are sharing life experiences and all those types of things. So you're building up this trust equity within the community, but what I share is me.
Yeah.
And I would say to whoever is looking to enter into the industry or whatever, you shouldn't falsify who you are. Just be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And I've noticed actually as I've sort of, I'm still not great at personal brand. I don't have a massive following and all that type of stuff, but the audience I've got is right.
Yeah.
I get a lot of comments. Yes, we have great houses, and the traction we get with that is great, but actually I get a lot more about my family and my kids and my, the experiences that we have out and all those types of things.
I think that's a really good point. Like, even when I think about LinkedIn, people do chase likes and comments, and actually, interestingly, the most work I've ever won is off the post with the least impressions and the least likes.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of delivering value add information, but also showing a bit of who you are.
Yeah.
Obviously, you were sales director, so presumably you had a big input in the sort of day-to-day runnings of the business. How do you think all them sort of learnings and experiences are going to sort of transfer to what you want to sort of create at Douglas Joshua? And congratulations, by the way, on starting a business. I think I get as excited as anyone else when someone steps out and does it. And I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting. Feel quite nervous about it, but I think what's been great for both Doug and I is that I think we've just been like completely blown away by the outreach of people, for support and congratulating us and all that sort of stuff. So yeah. So that's been really good, and I think our routes market will be quite different to what some of the other startups that you've seen in the town because of the traction that we had with that. But I guess in terms of like learnings, it's you get to learn the technical side when you're working in a business, of course, cash flowing and all those types of stuff. But really, I guess it's really about how you're attacking the market in the right way. Without sounding arrogant, I think we know how to take a market.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to to do that in a short period of time.
Yeah.
But in a collaborative way. Like I'm quite happy to work with other people.
Yeah.
Because I think that ultimately produces the best results for clients. And that you can get very taken by, I've got to outsell that agent, I'm going to do this. But actually the main focus should be the client. And if you're known for being trustworthy and constantly delivering sound advice and building that track record, ultimately that's how you win.
Yeah, I guess, and I suppose if you're marketing in particular property where someone else has probably got a good following that maybe will have the people that want to see that property, then why not work with someone else, I guess?
Yeah.
That gets you the best result for the client.
Yeah. And it's it's one of the things that I hate, but like when you go and like pitch for business, you often follow agents in who use this there's a back end to Rightmove and it has like a pie chart on it.
Okay.
And it will say like, we have 20% market share. We'll go right bit. And but it's great that you have 20% market share, but there's a hell of a lot of agents in CM23 that operate.
Yeah.
So like, where's the other 80%? So actually, if you're in a position where you're listing a house, you can produce amazing content, deliver the house to the market in the right way by collaborating with the vendor and setting up the right marketing plan. If you can then get to a stage where you say, I'm going to then go to 3 or 4 of the other agents that we're aligned with, and I can then open up 100% of the market. That's the way that I think agents should be thinking. It's not just all for, Douglas Joshua, we've got 20% of the market and we're the best.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that actually you should collaborate within the industry to get to that point.
How do I get you the biggest reach, basically?
And it's simple, right? Biggest reach means more viewings means more offers means higher price.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how your learnings are making you look at the next step, because if you think about your market, I guess, like, I'm not a specialist in your market, but absolutely you've kind of gone through the stage of, like you say, putting them in envelopes, sending them out. Rightmove comes along. People probably became reliant on Rightmove.
Yeah.
And then social media, videos, different types of marketing to get, and the people get left behind, I think, that don't look for the next thing, right? And I imagine AI is going
to disrupt everything. Yeah, it's making vast changes now, but I think agents that continue to be the face of brands and they're working directly with their clients, but they're in a position where they can wrap themselves with AI to help them with processes, communication, that type of aspect of the role, I think will win. Yeah. Ultimately, it's just about leaning into AI. AI, I think, is it's unlikely to replace an agent because people still want to be face to face.
Yeah.
And sort of going back to what you were saying, like agents these days, yes, you have to be on Rightmove because they do have a monopoly of the market, unfortunately.
Yeah.
yes, you do have to have a presence on social media and one of all those types of things, but nothing will replace like good old fashioned agency. And, you know, as I say, when I first started, it was in its infancy, but what was drilled into you is that you have this thing that's on your desk, which is called a phone, and you have to pick it up and you have to make it cool. And, you know, and it's about being really proactive and not being reactive to the market. And to be honest, that is what has probably set us apart over the last 10, 11 years, because we've taken a very proactive approach to the market and we've leaned into all the other things that you've had to adopt to stay ahead. But nothing will substitute that hard work of being proactive.
No, I think communication is in the phone is huge, by the way. Like, I mean, I think early days, I think I turned off email for a week because it was like, well, I emailed them.
Yeah.
Right? And did you get the same result, like, as not getting hold of them?
Yeah.
Pick up the phone and like,
Yeah.
because that's how you build relationships as well.
Yeah, and I hate that like email culture that we've now gotten into, and it's you know, I'm only 37, but it's you know, we're fortunate enough to have gone through that era with without social media but phones. And you know, I always feel for like the next generations that's coming through, because you know, as I say, there's that instant gratification, but there's that culture now that we're in email and message and all those sorts of things.
It's probably harder to learn that skill set unless you're naturally that way inclined.
Yeah, 100%.
So Douglas Joshua, like what made you want to do it? Was like being a founder and itch you wanted to scratch? Or was it like the experiences you learned and you felt like you could do something different? Like what was it that made you go, let's do it?
Yeah, it's probably something I've always aspired to do. Yeah. And I think, you know, certainly over the last 5-6 years, I felt that, you know, I was probably ready to take that step. Built really good relationships, got a good profile in the town now. And a few years ago, I had a bit of a health scare, and to be honest, it didn't knock ambition, but it probably helped me reframe really what I wanted. Yeah, I think it sounds like a really weird thing to say, but you know, anyone that knows me knows that I'm really ambitious. Yeah. I think that there was a point in my career where I felt like I had probably plateaued slightly. Yeah. And actually what I realise now is that whilst I was progressing lots in work, it got to a point where actually I then progressed in life. You know, I had kids, moved house, got married, all those sorts of things. Yeah. So now I look back and I think that actually that time I was still delivering good results from work, but it wasn't the main focus. Yeah. And, you know, and then having that slight scare made me think that, you know, everything I do now is for my family. That's my purpose. Yeah. And sometimes you just got to feel the fear and do it anyway. Yeah. So, so that's where Douglas Joshua has been born, basically.
Oh, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. You and me both.
You know, like obviously I'm saying that you seem like you want to kind of do something slightly different, but from like the outside, I've been obviously watching, I'm always interested in property myself. And from the outside, it does seem to appear that the market's slightly shifting from a structural point of view in terms of not the actual properties, like how businesses are operating. A lot of them move into this sort of self-employed model. There seems to be quite differing views about it as well. Some people actually know someone that did it and hated it. And maybe that was the security of not having a job, but they're scared because it's not for everyone, right? Jumping into business and stuff, because you do take a lot of risks that people don't see that have always been employed. Yeah. But it seems like a lot of agencies are going down that route. Yeah. And maybe that's like less risk for them. Like if you're not selling, you're not paying. How do you feel about that shift?
I mean, I think, you know, 100% that's the way the industry is going. And I think that you've started to see that traction taking place now, but in the next 5 years or so, that's probably going to be the biggest shift within the market. Indeed. I have to say, I don't know lots about the different models out there, but I think that what strikes me is that you have to build a solid base for those people to work alongside. You know, that, as I've alluded to already, the collaboration piece is sort of key. There's models out there that are based on scaling teams like super quick, when actually that dilutes down what that brand is about, and actually the quality of the agents are very good. I think there's probably twofold to this, really. That the barrier for entry for a estate agency is really low. You know, it's hence me starting when I was 17. Yeah. And it's really low. There's some bad connotations associated to the industry. And one of the things that is being talked about quite heavily and has been probably for the last 5 to 10 years is about the regulation of the industry. So I think the UK is probably one of the only countries that isn't regulated. So if you go to the US, for example, you have to be a licensed broker.
Right.
And actually then the perception of an agent is far different to what it is here.
Yeah.
So I think if you have a brokerage that is set up really well to a foundation for those brokers to operate, then I'm all for it. There has to be some regulation, I think, with those agents, because I think that will only get more traction within the market. But it will be down to the individual. If you've got great personal brands, you're well networked, it's sort of a no-brainer, really.
Yeah.
And what you're going to see is the big shift. So you're seeing a lot of big name players that are in some of the big firms that are now going into the self-employed model. And it's probably because they've been fast-tracked from being a solid agent into a management role.
Right.
And actually, most agents just love, meeting people.
The actual sellers.
Yeah, the actual role. So, so being able to get away from being a manager and doing the things that you really love, collaborating with other like-minded people, but also having the background to support you to go and do, your administration, and you're helping with progression of sales and all those sorts of things. That will be the best balance.
Yeah. The markets, I guess I'm specialist in. I see it all the time, like where someone's really good at sales, they're smashing their numbers.
Yeah.
They're the highest performing consultant in a division.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to make you manager or associate director, and now you've got this team.
Yeah.
By nature, I think it's probably different in estate agency. By nature, like a really high performing salesperson might be quite selfish.
Yeah.
Right. So they're actually not the best manager to have. And I see it so many times, the mistake that the sort of square peg in a round hole type thing. And I think that model might resolve some of that actually. But I think like you said, the platform is going to be really important, because I guess if you were to start doing it straight away, you need to be able to offer the branding, all the video, like the marketing, everything like that. Because I guess if I put myself in a self-employed, or I'm going to come and be a self-employed, I want tools and platforms to be able to.
Yeah, you want to work with somebody who knows how to unlock a market. Yeah, basically, it's. I think when we get to that stage where we look to expand, it's going to be right. We're going to target that person because that person's really well networked in that area, and we have be able to give them the tools to unlock further, get more traction, build a personal brand. As I say, and I think that's going to be the formula that wins. And and going back to what you're saying, that was one of the biggest frustrations that I had early in my career, where I was very lucky that but did turn down other roles. So like when I was in the first business, I would get you might get offered, oh, you're progressing really well, there's still not anything available for maybe like a management role in Silver, but you could go and manage Stansted, for example.
Yeah.
Why would I move out of a marketplace that I'm really well known? And I understand that people push for that opportunity to go and have that, to go and manage an office and those sorts of things, but you're then diluting down who you are. And as I say, living and working in a town is a cheat code.
Obviously, I've grown up in Stortford as well, and I find that whether you're playing in sports teams or friendship groups, and people know people, but ultimately, I do agree with you, like in terms of why you target a certain person to come and work with you guys in the future.
Yeah,
because if we put lettings to a side and just think about sales, people do buy people, right? And the assets in your business is probably going to be your people, right? So it makes absolute sense to go for.
Yeah, and I mean, and to be honest, it probably does translate into lettings as well, because I think I've never done lettings, so but this is my 2 pence. But I think that a lot of focus goes into the person that can onboard a client, and actually and it's funny, but the perception of property management is like the arse end of the the professional.
Right. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, they have to deal with the crowd.
Yes.
Where they tell you the tenants, the landlords, but actually, if you're working with, you know, a professional landlord and you've got really good negotiators that don't just place any tenant, it actually could be done really well.
Yeah.
But that person that is managing that portfolio is the person that's building the relationship, who's getting all the trust. And so actually that back end is almost, I think, more important than the front end.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, and again, you can be that person in that marketplace that is really well known for managing portfolios.
Yeah. So moving on, in a few years' time, Douglas Joshua has been operating for 3 years. What do you want it to be known for from an aspect of externally with your clients, but also internally with the people that work for you?
I guess it's being, you know, trusted within the community, and being, you know, well known for delivering, you know, sound advice and also building that track record. Yeah, we've sort of touched on it about being, you know, slightly disruptive within the town and, you know, hopefully the wider industry. But yeah, we've been really intentional about how we're setting up Douglas Joshua. It might sound a bit obscure, but the US and Australia are, in our view, are leading the way in terms of how agency is done. And Doug and I really sort of admired, there was 2 brands in particular we really liked in Australia. Okay. One of which is a company called White Fox. They're known for, you know, being really direct. Their marketing is like exceptional. And then their brand's really cool. We connected with this guy a while ago called Aidan Hathaway, who now runs a company called Fox Hat.
Okay.
But Aidan was part of the original setup of White Fox.
Okay.
So we had spoken to a couple of branding agencies locally here, and, you know, obviously exceptional about what they do. But we were like, if we're going to do something different, let's like think out the box and let's take it a different way. So we went to Aidan and said, look, you know, this is going to be what we're looking to do. And actually we would work with him to pull together our brand. So like whenever I say to people, we use something in Australia, like mad, but it's been a good move.
Yeah.
But what's been like really interesting going through that process was that when we wanted to be really very different, when they pitched to us like the first route to market, we were like, this is not us, there's like probably 2 out there.
Right.
And then like fed it into clients and friends and family, and they were like, look, you know, you 2 guys are the brand.
Yeah.
You should build Douglas Joshua around who you are. So like the brand is like very much based on the things we like, the color palettes that we like, you know, the colors that we dress in, this other thing. And we took some influence from Soho House and Soho Home and Ainley Dior, which is a streetwear brand. And, you know, they're very cool and sophisticated brands, and that's, you know, how we want to be perceived. So hopefully with that disruption and, you know, and track record and all those sorts of things, that will position us really well in from an external point of view. Internally, I just, you know, great culture, you know, really want to build a really good culture.
Yeah.
I want people to feel that they love working with us, and the brand is something that they're really proud to represent.
Yeah.
And then I think if you're in a position where, you know, you've got, you know, good support externally and you've got a team that are working really hard for you internally, then the results will really just come.
Yeah, winning formula. Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is a business and life podcast, so let's go over to your life. You mentioned a little bit about you've had like some health scares and family are your number one.
Yeah,
you've got a young family. You know, our kids went to the same school. Mine are a bit older and moved on now. But like, how big a foundation has that family been for you in giving you not just the license to go and do it, but like the support and, you know?
I mean, yeah, everything really. I mean, I'm very, very fortunate to have, you know, a great support network around me. You know, Lara, my wife, is, you know, is very supportive, and tolerant, probably. And you know, and wider family, you know, parents, in-laws, you know, when I was discussing with them that, you know, this is the plan, you know, it was very much, you should have done it years ago, you know, push on and do it. But, you know, the work-life balance is hard. I've probably become better at it, like since that health scare, because it puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I try to take kids to school if I can. So Ivy, my daughter's 5, so she started school this year. And Theo, my son's at nursery, and spend some time with family as well. So when Lara is in London working, I tend to do school runs, which actually is really nice.
Yeah.
I love being part of that, and doing pickups and that type of thing. Weekends is all about them.
Yeah.
And as I'm sure you know,
Yeah.
when you first start school, you're at a party like every weekend.
Yeah, the early years are tough.
Yeah.
Party circuit.
Yeah, and it's like parties, swimming, stagecoach, all those sorts of things. So that's great. The worst habit I have is my phone. To be honest, I'm terrible for checking emails, checking social media, all those types of things.
Wow.
Yeah. And one of the things that I have bought, which I need to get better at using, is, if you've seen it, but like you can buy these things called a brick,
Right.
which is like an app on your phone, and then you can basically like block your apps and stuff. Which, I mean, as I said, I'm not great at using.
So the brick is an app, is it?
So the brick is a plastic brick.
Right. Okay.
It blocks your phone.
Oh, okay.
So you can only take calls and messages or set it up as you wish. Then that brick gets left in your drawer, and you go off about your day, and no access to social media or all those types of things until you unbrick it.
So have you used it at the weekends much, or?
Yeah. I mean, at the moment, I'm like glued to my phone, because it's like we've launched social media and that type of thing. I'm like, and we've got 400 viewers, 400 new people, following us, and all this sort of stuff. I'm like constantly looking at it, but I will wean myself off of that, and definitely, and concentrate on.
Well, I think that's a cycle. Like, I remember the first few years of my business, I think I probably lived it.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't regret it, because I think there is a certain element that you have to.
Yeah.
But I think you have to recognise when you've got to a point where you don't need to do that anymore, and come back in, because it's definitely a mistake I made, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that support from home is massive, isn't it? And
yeah, definitely. And I think you have to build, good structure in all ways, don't you? Like, I've got, and it's probably helped by having a non-compete for a duration. I go to the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning, get that done out of the way, and then I know that by the time I'm back, kids are waking up and I'm getting ready for school. Evenings, you're back for bath time and bed, and you don't need to go to the gym because it's already done. And then I actually get a few hours with Lara watching TV and catching up and that sort of stuff. So that's really important.
Yeah, it is. I think every situation out there, I would say, like whether you're part of like a family, you're co-parenting, you're a single parent, whatever.
Yeah.
I think you've got to find a different way to work. Like for me, like I'm co-parent, and the one non-negotiable for me was having time with the kids. So like I was like, no, I'm still going to do the school runs. I'm still going to do that. Yeah. And I was like, how's that going to fit into, it's like fitting like 2 into 1, isn't it? Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
But you find a different way of working.
Yeah.
And you learn where you're being inefficient.
Yeah.
So actually it was a really good, not that I'd recommend anyone go through it, but I would say it made me become more efficient in certain areas, and it made me realize how much time I actually wasted before.
Yeah.
So now, I've always fitted it in, and I think it just comes back to your why. I think if you've got a big enough why, and you clearly have, like, success comes from that, I think, because you're just always driven for the right reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
So looking back at your career so far, if someone's watching this, or someone comes to speak to you for advice, a young agent or someone that's got some experience and is thinking about going out on their own, what advice would you give them in terms of, you think the big mistakes they can make and all the really important things that they have to do? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, it's sort of, we were talking off camera before we started. It was about, basically focusing on the things that you're good at, and then really sort of drilling down and giving it time. As I've said, to get to a level of a career that you sort of will feel happy with, and then start to see the rewards. It takes time. It's not a quick win. As I said, stay true to yourself. If you're analytical, be analytical. If you're, whatever your characteristics are, be true to those.
Yeah.
in the background, work on the things that you're not particularly strong on. Yeah. But like, when you're fresh into the industry, like things like, I remember when I first started, like one of the things that the business owner said to me is that you've lived in the town, but do you know the roads? And I was like, well, I've got a good basis for it. But I used to spend hours, and no joke, hours. I used to finish work, like get in a car. I used to drive around town, learning all the streets, go down all the little cul-de-sacs, all those sorts of things. That, it's a very small thing, but like people don't do that now. Like, we might onboard somebody, or in the past onboard someone that, you're saying, right, you're new to the area, you need to know these roads, and they wouldn't spend the time. No. So it's, do those small things. They might seem like the mundane jobs and roles to do, but actually that will be really important as your career advances.
I feel like there's some quite good interview questions there for some experience people quizzing them. Do you know where this one is?
Yeah, this one is. Yeah, we used to quiz people all the time.
Did you?
Yeah, and like schooling and all those sorts of things. So yeah, I mean, it's really important. Like, you get, we see a lot of people come from, a lot of Londoners move into the town. Their route to the town is hop on the train, they do a recce on a Saturday. They might meet with an agent for a coffee and say, right, okay, what can you tell me, or where do you want to be? Like, you have to know, like, the background of schooling, what the Ofsted is, all those sorts of things. And if you know your stuff inside out, back to front, like, that gets across, doesn't it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, like, obviously, talking about Londoners coming to here, right? Like that, I remember that being quite a big thing during COVID, where they may have lived in a very expensive property, but with no garden or little garden. And, they were like, oh, what about this great area that's got gardens and maybe a bit more bang for your buck? It really pushed the prices up here locally, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
So, like, a little bit on that, like, we've obviously spoke a lot about business and building a business and branding and all them sort of great things, staff. Like the actual market itself, what you see it doing over the next year, interest rates are dropping. Yeah. They're predicted to probably drop further.
Yeah.
What do you think that will do to prices? I mean, some people are talking about them going up because of that, because they're going to be maybe cheaper mortgages.
Yeah.
How do you perceive it?
Yeah, I mean, Stalford is a really interesting marketplace.
Microclimate.
Yeah, it really is. And to be honest, that's probably drilled down even further by postcode now. I think like when I first started, it was very much a localized market. You would see a lot of upsize, downsize trades take place, and then you started to have this sort of outside influence come in, which is basically what's driven the market. In my view, is that there's been this complete imbalance of supply and demand. So there's very little properties that come on into the market, but the demand is twofold. So certainly with the upper end of the market, it's very true. Like transaction numbers over £1 million within the town are, maybe 20 to 30 transactions a year. So it's not a lot. I think you've had last year the budget. Lots of information was drip fed to the market from August, which normally within a normal marketplace you'd get you don't get a full 12 months of being really busy. You'd normally get a first 6 or back 6, and August is the one month that now still stays very flat because everyone else is preoccupied on the beach and what have you. Market didn't come back from September.
Is that because they knew this budget was coming?
Yeah, and whenever you've got like a big fiscal event like a budget, people sit on their hands and they wait to see what's going to happen. And and some of the headlines were pretty scary. And then obviously we've come out of a budget fairly unscathed from a housing perspective. And then you've had a rate cut in December. So for me, I was sort of thinking, God, our exit timing was perfect.
Yeah.
And with that rate cut, you then had HSBC announced today that they're like one of the first major lenders that are going to cut their mortgage rate. So as soon as you get that happen, that's the catalyst for others.
Yeah.
So you're going to get really positive sentiment within the market. I think certainly at the first 6 months of 2025, it was a really busy market. You were able to be proactive. You were piecing deals together. And that's exactly how I think that this first 6 months will go. We've then got a World Cup. which will disrupt the market because they always do.
Really?
Yeah. Whenever you get something like that, people have got half an eye on other things that are going on.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is, and it's you just find that it's not necessary.
People like, I will do it after. I want to watch this.
Yeah, it might just, if it's a few weeks of a tournament, maybe it might not be the sole focus for moving house.
Right.
But you might see that it will continue from it's normally segmented dependent on who your buyer demographic is, but because you'll still get this, oh no, I've had this email or I've got a call from somebody, I'll go and view it instantly. But normally you will find that something like that might have a bit of an impact on the market. So it'd be interesting to see what that does. But yeah, I think as far as I'm concerned, I think we're probably in for quite a good year.
Good year, yeah.
Yeah.
I've obviously asked you already more longer term, like 3 years where you want to be. I might know the answer to this one, but if we were to speak again in a year, is your main target results, or is it to get the brand out there? It's probably a mix of everything, right? But what would you really want to?
I think probably just having really good visibility within the market. Probably got some very good transactions under our belt. Starting to build good relationships and continuing past relationships. Yeah, and just I guess just being that brand that almost was starting to become that's the go-to brand now. I think our route to market is very different to others because we're two guys that are really well known, and I think that's going to really pay dividend when we actually hard launch. And it's a very, very small measure, and it doesn't have a direct impact in terms of what we're listing and all those sorts of things. But we launched our Instagram page on a Friday. By close of play Sunday, we had 450 followers, which is quite quick for a new brand. And people might listen to this and think, well, I've got tens of thousands of followers, but actually the audience that we've collated already is more important than the right audience, as opposed to just having mass market. So I think all the things that I've said before, trust, bit of track record already, penetrated the market in the right way.
Actually interesting, probably this more personal question from my interest is obviously, estate agents who sell houses, listings draws people in because people are looking. Do you get a lot sort of the reverse way where someone wants a property, they know the area, you're a consultant, I go, right, Josh, this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Can you go and try and find me some property?
Yeah, I mean, all the time. Really, it's if you think of the duration of time of being in the market, you build up. We'll use this word a lot. Loads of relationships. If you go onto a road, chances are I've seen a number of properties on that street, so I have the contact details. Yeah. So if someone says to me, I'll quite often say to someone that there's not anything available right now for you on Rightmove or in our portfolio right now. Tell me exactly what you want, or come and meet me, hop in my car, or drive you around the streets, which I think that we should be targeting.
Yeah.
And I can give you a rough ballpark on that house is worth X, that's why, that falls in with the budget, that type of thing. And then we'll be proactive about approaching those people.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say, if it's a serious buyer, you'll go and contact these people.
Yeah. And, and you'd be, we used to off market quite a lot. And people, I think people are still really surprised about the percentage of properties that get sold without even going to Rightmove.
I guess my perception of it is if you want to move house, you start looking at Rightmove.
Yeah.
But actually, personally, I'd probably just come to someone that I know knows the town.
Yeah.
Knows the areas that I'd want to live in.
Yeah.
Etc.
If you think, those people that are new into an area, they don't have those relationships. Yeah. And, I think we've always been quite different in terms of how we might, it's not like onboarding a client, but for example, I'm recommended to someone and that person reaches out, I would always say, right, let's go and meet for a coffee. So straight away, we're in a calmer atmosphere. You're able to get to know each other. You get to know, that they've got 3 children. They're of these ages. This is what's important to them. They want to taste their toast while they're sitting on the platform in the morning. They're that close.
Yeah.
And then it's about going and finding that right house. And of course, there will always be opportunities that you get invited to pitch for a house and you say to the person, I know exactly who this is, who's going to buy it. Yeah. But 9 times out of 10, you have to be proactive and, and find that house for that buyer, basically.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I've got one more question because I've followed it online and I was a little bit obsessed with it. That's probably the biggest property or one of the most expensive properties that's ever been sold in Bishop Stortford, I guess. How interesting was working on that project?
You know, the Legion is an iconic building that anyone knows. I mean, an amazing project, really. I mean, and how it came about was really great. You know, it was. I met the vendor, the owner of the building, at when they were actually trying to sell their residential address.
Okay.
And we concluded that sale, and he said, "Look, you know, I've also got this other project I've been working on." And at the time, actually, so the initial plan was to renovate the house and live in it, but actually, you know, it's great to listed, it's conservation.
Yeah.
Because of it being listed, there was a wall to the left-hand side of the house, which basically unlocked the garden and access to parking, all those sorts of things. And that had been a real challenge to get access. And I think they had got basically fed up with the process. So ended up buying elsewhere.
Yeah.
But they then teamed up with a really well-known guy called Peter Burzum that actually lives on the street.
Okay.
Has a fantastic track record of working for big development companies. Had been experiencing sort of renovating your Regent Street townhouses, that type of stuff. So had vast experience in listed properties and that type of thing. And and then they built a really good team. So you've got him as the project manager and the complete vision behind it, tinkering around with the floor plans and changing how somebody should live in a property, alongside another local lady called Helen Teague, who was the interior designer. So great to see it from a horrible rundown, it was a bar, social club, basically, to what it is today. So 9,000 square foot, 6 bed, 6 bath, pool facility in the garden.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, really interesting project to be a part of, and now a record price within the town.
Good to have on your CV, right?
It was a good exit. Yeah, a really good one to be part of. And to be honest, it was, if anything, it was, a compliment to be able to list it. And it actually showed that actually how far the brand had come.
Josh, thanks so much for coming on, mate. I wish you the best of luck.
Cheers.
I don't think you need much of it, but I think you're going to do just fine. I'll be excited to see how it goes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I think you'll find that really interesting. And if you want to see more, please subscribe. And if you're a business that wants to come on and have a chat, please just get in touch. We'll see you all soon.